All right. Welcome to another edition of Shabbat Lounge. This is Matt.
And Jake here.
Jake, how you been?
I've been well.
Good. So Jake and I are in the middle of a series, but we do want to give a shout out to someone who has been very faithful, and we want to acknowledge her.
Yes, Blessed Blooming Homestead, 9134. We just appreciate all the comments you leave us all the time and your faithful listenership. So, yes, thanks for following along.
And always a kind word and great comments. Thank you for being our number one commenter, hands down.
Hands down.
Not even close. We appreciate it. So we would ask the rest of you listening if you would also comment and give it a like or share. And we're in the middle of this Revelation series. So Jake, what do they do?
So if you go to sabbathlounge.com, you'll see a tab called Teaching Series, and then scroll down there and find Revelation Study, and then scroll down to chapter 11, and you'll be right there with us.
Yep. So that's where we'll be this time. So, anything else we need them to do, Jake?
Just follow along, and if you haven't seen the previous episodes, go ahead and listen to those first. That way this will make a little bit more sense to you.
Okay.
So what's the idea behind this?
Well, it started with a quest. It actually started with Ezekiel for me, and I was going through Ezekiel, and I started going, wow, there's a lot of comparisons to Revelation here, and I think if I'm going to understand Revelation, I probably should understand Ezekiel. And that's kind of what we do at Sabbath Lounge, is a lot of times you're getting in on kind of our research and things that interest us, and we just make it available, and we figure someone else might be interested in it. But we're kind of going through not just Ezekiel, but seeing sister passages in the text that correlate with Revelation. And we feel like it's a pretty good list. We looked at multiple sources, multiple Bibles on this, and tried to come. It's not perfect. There are some redundancies. There are, there's probably a few mistakes here, but we just hope that it can kind of help you connect some dots and in your study of Revelation.
Right.
And bottom line is that's something you should study. Revelation, in fact, says you'll be blessed if you do.
Right.
So we encourage this. In fact, if you haven't read Revelation, we'd just say just turn this off and go read Revelation. You'd be better off.
Yes, and then when you get into studying after you've read it through a couple times, then check on back, and we'll have some links to some other things that you might find, hey, that thing in Ezekiel sounds just like this.
Mm-hmm. And I'm taking the videos that we make and embedding them on the pages. So anyway, so it's pretty easy to follow there. And the first thing we'll do is we'll kind of read through Revelation chapter 11. And this is about the two witnesses. This is a topic that many, many people have debated. There's a lot of opinion out there. There's, people are all over the place about who the witnesses are. And that's not really what we intend to dive into this evening. But you just need to know there are all kinds of theories from, Moses and Elijah, I would say is probably number one.
That's probably the standard.
Yeah. But I've even heard other people mentioned in that as well. So it just kind of depends on what you look at.
Right.
But this two witness thing does seem like a big deal. So Jake, if you'll just start here, we'll just take turns.
All right. So chapter 11, starting at verse 1. Then I was given a stick like a measuring stick. I was told, stand up and measure the temple of Elohim and the altar. Count those who worship there, but do not measure the temple courtyard. Leave that out, because it is given to the nations, and they will trample the holy city for 42 months. I will allow my two witnesses who wear sackcloth to speak what Elohim has revealed. They will speak for 1,260 days. These witnesses are the two olive trees and the two lampstands standing in the presence of the master of the earth. If anyone wants to hurt them, fire comes out of their witnesses' mouths and burns up their enemies. If anyone wants to hurt them, he must be killed the same way. These witnesses have authority to shut the sky in order to keep rain from falling during the time they speak what Elohim has revealed. They have authority to turn water into blood and to strike the earth with any plague as often as they want.
All right. Pretty powerful things they're allowed to do. And I think one reason people consider Elijah as this rain being shut up because that's something he did. When the witnesses finish their testimony, the beast, which comes from the bottomless pit, will fight them, conquer them, and kill them. Their dead bodies will lie on the street of the important city where Yahuwah was crucified, where Yeshua was crucified. The spiritual names of that city are Sodom and Egypt. For 3.5 days, some members of the people, tribes, languages, and nations will look at the witnesses' dead bodies and will not allow anyone to bury them. Those living on earth will gloat over the witnesses' death. They will celebrate and send gifts to each other because these two prophets had tormented those living on earth. After 3.5 days, the breath of life from Yah entered the two witnesses, and they stood on their feet. Great fear fell upon those who watched them. The witnesses heard a loud voice from heaven calling to them, "Come up here." They went up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies watched them. At that moment, a powerful earthquake struck. 1/3 of the city collapsed. 7,000 people were killed by the earthquake, and the rest were terrified. They gave glory to Elohim of heaven.
The second catastrophe is over. The third catastrophe will soon be here. When the seventh angel blew his trumpet, there were loud voices in heaven saying, "The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our master and of his Messiah, and he will rule as king forever and ever." Then the 24 leaders who were sitting on their thrones in Elohim's presence immediately bowed, worshipped Elohim, and said, "Give thanks to you, Yahweh Elohim Almighty, who is and who was, because you have taken your great power and have begun ruling as king. The nations were angry, but your angel has come. The time has come for the dead to be judged, to reward your servants, the prophets, your holy people, and those who fear your name, no matter if they are important or unimportant, and to destroy those who destroy the earth." I might as well finish it up. Elohim's temple in heaven was opened, and the ark of his promise was seen inside his temple. There was lightning, noise, thunder, an earthquake, and heavy hail.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting chapter. It's
Yeah, a
a
lot
lot
going on
of stuff
there.
happening here, and a lot of there's death, there's resurrection, all kinds of stuff.
Destruction.
Yes,
So,
yes.
um, usually, so I don't know. How do I want to bring this up? So, a lot of times we'll look at scripture and go, "Oh, that sounds like something," and then we'll assign it like some symbolic meaning that isn't necessarily in there.
Right.
Like we'll say, "Oh, well, the two witnesses, that's like the twin towers, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
were knocked down and killed."
There it is.
And then
You
everyone,
heard it here
that's
first.
right, and everyone danced around and gave each other presents, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
then they rose again
Yeah.
with not 3.5 days later, but
No. 3.5 years, maybe.
yeah,
No.
I think it was like 10 years.
Yeah. It's a
But
long.
the point is, just because it kind of correlates to something and sounds cute, and
Well, that's a good point. Many Americans try to attribute American things to this, and I'm like, I don't think that you can do that.
yeah,
This is talking about a very specific place, and I do not believe Jerusalem is in America. And there are some people who think that,
yeah.
but I do not think that.
Well, and that's how America was set up. It was, the point of coming over here and setting it up the way they did, it was to
Like a new
start a new,
Jerusalem.
start a new
Yeah.
land and kind of pull in Yah's favor.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, for sure. but definitely a lot to unpack here. So we'll go. Hopefully, I can get us back where we started. There we go. It worked. Okay.
Hey.
So, oh, the other thing that I wanted to point out here is, notice most of us have been taught this revelation is this future thing, and yes, obviously it is a future thing, but the way John writes it, it's as if he is watching it happen,
Right.
which is interesting. So, and it's one of those time things that was John in the future watching this event? Yes, probably. So he may have really watched the whole thing happen.
Right.
And it's kind of hard to, we talk about time travelers, and if it's like, ooh, could that really happen? Well, we got biblical proof possibly of a time traveler.
Yeah, especially yeah, like a lot of the prophets that are telling of future events, that they're seeing future events.
Hmm.
It's kind of like time travel.
Yeah, yeah, especially Ezekiel and maybe even Daniel and Isaiah. They saw some things.
And if you follow
Um,
Enoch,
yeah,
there's a lot of that in there. So,
yeah. All right, so something interesting, and I think we should look at this real fast. So, um, let's look at that. So, real fast, let's look over to Ezekiel 40. So we just read about in Revelation about someone measuring, and so I just want you to consider this particular passage. Um, let's see, where does it go?
I think
So,
right there at the go down 5 maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So in Ezekiel 43 through 42:20, you kind of have this sister passage where you get similar dimensions, similar measurement. And I think this is the scripture where I say it's possible that Ezekiel saw John measuring, because in verse 5 he says, I saw a wall that surrounded the temple. The man had a measuring stick that was 10.5 feet long. He measured the wall. It's 10.5 feet thick and 10.5 feet high. So he's like seeing some guy measuring some other person.
Yeah, and what we just read in Revelation 11, I was given a stick like a measuring stick. Stand
Mm-hmm.
up and measure the temple.
Mm-hmm. It does make you wonder, and it makes sense that these guys could have possibly seen each other, and that's what I wrote right there. So I guess, but I put a link so you can go back and look at the scripture in detail. So we already read, we'll read. So we go with Revelation 11:1, which is what you just read.
Yep. Stand up,
And
measure the temple of Elohim and the altar, count those who worship there.
then Ezekiel 40:47 says the man measured the courtyard. It was a perfect square, 175 feet long, 175 feet wide, and the altar was in front of the temple. And then Ezekiel 43:3-9, he brought me closer. I saw a man who looked like he was covered with bronze. The man was holding a linen tape measure and a measuring stick, and he stood in the gateway, and he said to me, Son of man, look with your eyes and listen with your ears. Pay close attention to everything I'm going to show you. You were brought here to be shown these things. Tell the nation of Israel everything that you see. And then long. He measured the wall. It was 10.5 feet thick, 10.5 feet high. Then the man went up to the gateway that faced east. He went up to the steps and measured the entrance of the gateway. It was 10.5 feet wide. There was also guard rooms. Each guard room was 10.5 feet long, 10.5 feet wide. The space between the guard rooms was 9 feet thick, and the entrance of the gateway by the entrance hall to the temple was 10.5 feet wide. He also measured the entrance of the gateway. It extended 14 feet from the temple. Its recessed walls were there, 3.5 feet thick. The gate's entrance hall faced the temple. And then Ezekiel 41:13, the man measured the temple. It was 175 feet long. This included all the open area, the building, and its walls. Altogether, it was 175 feet long. Revelation 21:4, the nations will walk in its light, and the king of the earth will bring their glory into it. Zechariah 2:1-2, I looked up and I saw a man with a measuring line in his hand. I asked him, Where are you going? He answered, I'm going to measure Jerusalem to see how wide and long it is. So another example in Zechariah, possibly of them, him speaking to John, and he's like, What are you doing up here?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy that
Yeah.
they talking to each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
I wonder if they knew at the time, like, hey, this is gonna be
I don't know. You'd think they would almost mention him by name, or maybe that was too freaky, and so, maybe that wasn't written down. I don't,
Yeah, I don't know.
or he was just, he just figured out there's this guy's a prophet too,
Yeah.
or I don't know.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Revelation 11:2 was, but do not measure the temple courtyard, leave that out, because it is given to the nations, and they will trample the holy city for 42 months. So that correlates with Ezekiel. We read, I don't think we read this one.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Ezekiel 40:17. Then the man brought me into the outer courtyard. I saw rooms there and pavement all around the courtyard. There were 30 rooms along the edge of the pavement. And then Ezekiel 40, verse 20. Then the man measured the length and width of the gateway leading to the outer courtyard. This was the gateway that faced north. Then Isaiah 52, verse 1. Wake up, clothe yourself with strength, Zion. Put on your beautiful clothes, holy city of Jerusalem. Godless and evil people will no longer come to you. So that must be after this Revelation 11:2 thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then Daniel 7:25. He will speak against the Elyonin, oppress the holy people of the Ilaah, and plan to change the appointed times and laws. The holy people will be handed over to him for a time, times, and half of a time. So, this is a bad guy speaking against Elyonin,
Mm-hmm.
Onan, and against the holy people. And he's changing times and laws. So if someone comes and changes the times and the laws, that's probably a bad thing.
Yeah.
So why would we ascribe that action to the Messiah? That's my question.
And well, I mean, you can go down a big rabbit hole here, for sure, because I do think, unfortunately, and I want to give a big disclaimer about what I'm about to say. So, and that disclaimer is this: that I was saved under the name and the blood of Jesus, and I came from a tradition where I have many grandparents and parents and siblings that are faithful, and I believe they wholeheartedly are believers and that they're saved, that they're not that they're walking in light,
Right.
for sure. By the way, by their fruit shows me this. And one can make an argument that not the real Messiah, but the way Messiah has been portrayed to the masses through the years could be this.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately many people have made him the man of lawlessness, which is so crazy to think about,
Yeah.
but people kind of have.
Yeah, it's in just like you're saying, it's not to like condemn anything, but like
No.
when we first came into this walk too, that's what we were saying. And one thing early on when we met with you guys, one of the people in the group was like, I can't remember the details, so I'll just leave it generic. But the point was, well, yeah, Yeshua is the Messiah. Jesus is this anti-Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of the picture. And if you understand what I'm saying, I'm not like attacking anyone. I'm just saying what we've turned modern day Jesus into is the anti-Messiah.
Yeah, unfortunately, the prayer that you see in Talladega Nights is kind of what people have turned him into. They've turned him into a neutered Elohim, if you will, and he's a little baby laying in a manger. He's pretty harmless, can't do a whole lot. They either do that with him, or they make him peace, love, hippie Jesus, and he loves everybody. Everybody's in the kingdom. Everybody's on the path of enlightenment. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's like new age is what you're talking about. Do you realize that's what you're saying? And we were for sure not condemning anybody. We would advise you, if you are going down that path, to just be very careful who you say that to and how you say it to them, because you got to have kind of the right ears to engage on that. And if you say that to the people with the wrong ears, they're going to be very offended and not understand what you're trying to say,
Yeah, and the
and hurt
problem, the
and maybe hurt and maybe ruin a relationship over over something like that.
yeah, the problem is when you shut someone down so that they're not even interested in anything else
Yeah,
have to say.
yeah,
Um, it's good to plant some seeds and just let them mull it over
yeah.
and not condemn people for it.
But if you think about it, in the end times, it makes sense, and maybe even the Left Behind series. Not that I'm just familiar with it, but I think they kind of hinted on some of this stuff that this figure is going to come back, and everyone is going to think he is the real Messiah, and it's going to be crazy not to believe in him.
Yeah. Yeah, I was all over that series when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I read every one of them. And very interesting, very, compelling story, but not what I've come to think
Oh yeah,
as super accurate,
but there are some concepts I think they got, and I think
yeah.
they understood that how he's going to deceive. Even the elect are going to be deceived. He's just, I believe you're going to see this character that comes on the scene in the name of Jesus or as Jesus, and he is going to unite all the religions. He's probably going to heal all the sick. He's going to do all these crazy things, cure world hunger. Just no telling what he's going to do.
And then he's gonna die of a head wound and
Yeah.
come back to life. Didn't we just see that happen to Trump?
Oh
No. Just kidding. Just kidding.
yeah, yeah.
Very close though.
Definitely, people have talked about that for sure. Some people have said Trump is a time traveler, and that's how he knew how to turn his head at the right second.
Yep.
So we're not diving into those weeds, but I guess we did.
Yeah. We went headlong into it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's we asked for comments. There you go. There's some fodder for the comments.
Yeah,
section.
feel free to say whatever you think there.
There. Okay, Daniel 12:7. I heard the man dressed in linen clothes. How do you hear a man dressed in linen clothes? They're so
Swish,
quiet,
maybe swish.
aren't they?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I've never worn linen.
Yeah, I guess they're probably a little stiff, right?
I don't know.
It depends on how long you've had them, I guess. I'm thinking ninja.
Or
thinking ninja clothes.
Maybe, or when's the last time you washed them? They could stand up on their own. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Daniel 12:7. I heard the man dressed in linen clothes who was above the river. He raised his right hand and left hand to heaven and swore an oath by the one who lives forever. He said, "It will be for a time, times and half a time. When the power of the holy people has been completely shattered, then all these things will be finished." And then, so go do some research on that time, times, and half a time. I believe that's Moed, and Moed, Moedim, and then
Oh yeah,
half a Moed.
Mm-hmm.
So they're talking about seasons, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So go do some research on that. As if you didn't have enough to research.
That's right.
Okay, Matthew 4:5. Then the devil took him into the holy city and had him stand on the highest part of the temple. So this is Yeshua standing in the temple. Luke 21:24. Swords will cut them down, and they will be carried off into all nations as prisoners. Nations will trample Jerusalem until the times allowed for the nations to do this are over. Revelation 12:10. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, "Now the salvation, power, kingdom of our Elohim and the authority of his Messiah have come. The one accusing our brothers and sisters, the one accusing them day and night in the presence of our Elohim has been thrown out." Then Revelation 13:5. The beast was allowed to speak arrogant and insulting things. It was given authority to act for 42 months. And I have a feeling we'll run into a couple of those again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's just so much to that for sure. There was something I was going to bring up there, but I don't remember what it was. So then we'll move on to Revelation 11:3. I will allow my two witnesses who wear sackcloth to speak what Yah has revealed. They will speak for 1,260 days. And then Genesis 37:34. Then to show his grief, Jacob tore his clothes, put on sackcloth around his waist, and mourned for his son for a long time. Deuteronomy 17:6. The person can only be sentenced to death on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, but no one should ever be sentenced to death on the testimony of only one witness. So these 2 witnesses show you that Yah's following his own Torah.
Right.
1 Kings 21:27. When Ahab heard these things, he tore his clothes in distress and dressed in sackcloth. He fasted, laid in sackcloth, and walked around depressed.
And then he killed that white whale.
Oh, yes, Ahab. 2 Kings 19:1-2. Then King Hezekiah heard the message. He tore his clothes in grief, covered himself with sackcloth, and he went into Yahweh's temple. Then he sent Eliakim, who was in charge of the palace, Shebna the scribe, and the leaders of the priests, clothed in sackcloth, to the prophet Isaiah, son of Amos. 2 Samuel 3:31. David told Joab and all the people with him, tear your clothes, put on sackcloth, and mourn for Abner. King David followed the open casket. Psalm 69:11. I dressed myself in sackcloth, but I became the object of ridicule. Isaiah 44:8. Don't be terrified or afraid. Didn't I make this known to you long ago? You are my witness. Is there any Elohim except me? There's no other rock. I know of none. Zechariah 4:14. So he said, these are the 2 anointed ones who are standing beside the Adonai of the whole earth. Daniel 7:25. He will speak against the Elion, oppressed holy people of Elia, and plan to change the appointed times and laws. We read that one just a second ago. And Daniel 12:7. I heard the man dressed in linen clothes.
Yeah, we read that one.
Yeah, we read that one too. That's right, because we just talked about that. Nehemiah 9:1. A day of fasting and confession. When the Israelites assembled on the 24th day of the month, they fasted, wore sackcloth, and threw dirt on their heads. Esther 4:1. When Mordecai found out that everything had been done, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes. He went into the middle of the city and cried loudly and bitterly. Joel 1:13. Put on your sackcloth and mourn, you priest. Cry loudly, you servants of the altar. Spend the night in sackcloth, you servants of my Elohim. Grain offerings, wine offerings are withheld from your Elohim's temple. Matthew 24:14. The good news about the kingdom will be spread throughout the world as a testimony of all the nations. Then the end will come. John 3:5. Yeshua answered Nicodemus, I can guarantee this truth. No one can enter the kingdom of Yah without being born of water and spirit. John 3:8. The wind blows wherever it pleases. You heard its sound, but you don't know where the wind comes from or where it's going. That's the way it is with everyone born of the Spirit. Or Ruach.
Lots of interesting stuff in there.
And definitely a pattern of the sackcloth and ashes, just establishing many people did that in showing mourning.
Right.
What were we going to say?
Good news, kingdom spread about the world as a testimony to all nations, then the end will come. Let's see. Okay. There was one I was looking at here. Oh, I guess I was thinking about the when Judas, he tears his clothes. He doesn't put sackcloth on, but tears his clothes, and then so does the priest when Messiah gives him what for.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting here too. No one can enter the kingdom of Elohim without being born of water and spirit. So I've always taken that to be baptism.
Yeah.
The water.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, Revelation 11:4. These witnesses are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands standing in the presence of Yahweh, the master of the earth. Zechariah 4:3-4. There are also 2 olive trees beside it, one on the right of the bowl and the other on its left. I asked the angel who was speaking with me, what do these things mean, sir? Psalm 52:8. But I am like a large olive tree in Elohim's house. I trust the mercy of Elohim forever and ever. Jeremiah 11:16. Yahweh called you a large olive tree that has beautiful fruit to look at. He will set fire to you with a mighty storm, and your branches will be broken. Zechariah 4:3. There are also 2 olive trees beside it on the right hand. We read that one. And then Zechariah 4:11, I asked the angel, what do these 2 olive trees at the right and the left of the lampstand mean? Can't be known.
Oh, yeah, I think earlier I was thinking about the lampstand, and the lampstand being made of the olive tree, when it talked about the one of the witnesses is the olive tree and the other's the menorah. Because there's not an olive tree necessarily in the temple or tabernacle, but it's represented through the menorah.
Unless olive means almond.
Oh, yeah. There's almonds.
Yep.
Could be.
Do a study on that.
Yeah. It is interesting. Okay, so where were we?
We're on 11:5.
Oh, yeah. If anyone wants to hurt them, fire comes out of the witness's mouth and burns up their enemies. If anyone wants to hurt them, he must be killed the same way. Leviticus 10:2. For some reason, I think we're going to see a lot of scripture about fire burning people up. So, I fire flash from Yahweh and burned them, and they died in the presence of Yahweh. Numbers 16:29. If these men die like all the other people, if they die a natural death, then Yahweh hasn't sent me. Numbers 16:35. Fire came from Yahweh and consumed 250 men with an offering incense. 2 Kings 19, no, 2 Kings 1, 9 through 12. The king sent an army officer with 50 men to Elijah. The officer found Elijah sitting on top of a hill. He told Elijah, Man of Elohim, the king says, come down. Elijah answered the officer, If I'm a man of Elohim, fire will come from heaven and burn you up and your 50 men. Then fire came from heaven and burned up the officer and his 50 men. The king sent another officer with 50 men to Elijah. The officer said, Man of Elohim, this is what the king says. Come here right away. Elijah answered the officer, If I'm a man of Elohim, fire will come from heaven and burn you up and your 50 men. Then Elohim's fire came from heaven and burned up the officer and his 50 men. So
that could be a reason people think one of them is Elijah.
Yeah. Yeah. Isaiah 5:24. His flames burn up straw, his dry grass shrivels in flames, so their roots will rot and their blossoms will blow away like dust. They have rejected the teachings of Yahweh Tissaboth and have despised the word of the Kodesh of Israel. Jeremiah 5:15. Nation of Israel, I'm going to bring a nation from far away to attack you, declares Yahweh. It is a nation that has lasted a long time. It's an ancient nation. You don't know the language of this nation. You can't understand what the people say. Jeremiah 23:29. Is it my word like fire or like a hammer that shatters a rock? Ask Yahweh. So this kind of scripture right here is one where people are like, see, that's America.
It's America doing the attacking.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people, I've definitely thought that before.
Okay.
When I read that scripture, but that's just me.
I think we got a while before we're considered a nation that's lasted a long time.
Yeah, no, that can't be us, I don't think, because, it's probably like Egypt or one of these that, isn't it interesting? This is a whole nother topic but study out all these countries that have the same name today that they did, at the beginning.
That's probably important.
Yeah. And isn't that fascinating? Because not many other countries, very few, have done that. And so that to me is the things, those countries are the ones to probably watch what happens. And at the beginning of this scripture, I meant to point out that it talks about Sodom and Egypt, I think, there at the beginning. And, that is kind of interesting. So that's something we're working on for a future thing, is kind of looking at some of that too. So that's an interesting topic.
So is this Jeremiah scripture, is this talking, refresh my time frame here, is this talking about Babylon?
Yeah, I think that the prophecy of 586, it's either Babylon or the fall with the Roman Empire later in 70 A.D. Either one definitely applies,
Okay.
but I do think it's Babylon the first
Okay.
time, 586.
Yeah. So the point that comes to mind for me um, is that this can probably apply to, I mean, what is the nation of Israel?
It's spiritual Israel is what we're a part of.
Yeah, so not necessarily the land, right?
Right?
So
No,
Yah's
the
people,
people.
Yah's people. I'm going to bring a nation from far away to attack you, declares Yahweh. So, um, the point I was thinking is how they're warned of this, they're told it's going to happen, and then society basically collapses until they're taken over. So, um, I guess I don't know how to articulate the way I'm thinking, but compare this to what America is dealing with right now and how we've we've basically requested judgment on ourselves by the way that by what we've allowed to take hold in this nation, and we're like, oh well, we'll just vote our way out of it. I don't think it works that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a judgment set, and what pulls you out of it isn't voting, it's repentance and crying out. It's the sackcloth and ashes routine
Yeah,
of of
repentance and falling on your knees and going, "I'm sorry, I messed up," and you don't see much of that.
yeah, Jonah style.
Yeah, you don't hear much talk of that. It's more like we're gonna be awesome and we're gonna kick everybody's butt. That's more what we hear.
Yeah.
So everybody will bow their knee to us.
Well, meanwhile, you got red as the American flag, Texas, with the what second biggest statue,
Mm-hmm.
the monkey god statue down in Houston now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Not
well,
good.
there's that.
Was that
So,
the monkeypox god?
yeah, I think they're related.
Maybe. Hmm. Maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. But just saying, when you're erecting giant pagan symbols around your nation, that's probably a bad thing.
Yeah, yeah. Especially, just look at what we talked about there in Revelation about mentioning Sodom and Gomorrah in Egypt, and then you go to DC and you see all the Egyptian symbolism. You're like, I don't know if that's a good thing to associate with.
Yeah, and one of the things that, if you go back a ways, we have a video on the Constitution, and we kind of went through some different imagery in the Capitol building and stuff like that. And one of the things that comes out of that is, yeah, there's a lot of things like Moses is in there and the Ten Commandments are in there and all that stuff. But there's also all kinds of other gods in there. And not that Moses is a god, I'm just saying they have other gods in there. And when you look at what the downfall of Israel was, it wasn't that they went and worshiped just other gods. They had Yah in there too, but they just mixed it with all the other gods also.
Hmm.
So that's the nation we live in.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
All right. Revelation 11:6. These witnesses have authority to shut the sky in order to keep rain from falling during the time they speak what Elohim has revealed. They have authority to turn water into blood and to strike the earth with any plague as often as they want. I think they started with the shutting down the rain in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Exodus 7:17. Here is what Yahweh says. This is the way you will recognize that I am Yahweh. With this staff in my hand, I'm going to strike the Nile, and the water will turn into blood. Well, there you go. Exodus 7:20. Moses and Aaron did as Yahweh had commanded in front of Pharaoh and his officials. Aaron raised his staff and struck the Nile. All the water in the river turned into blood, as before mentioned. 1 Kings 17:1. Elijah, who was from Tishbe but had settled in Gilead, said to Ahab, Arr, I solemnly swear as Yahweh Elohim of Israel, whom I serve, lives, there will be no dew or rain during the next few years unless I say so. I guess that was Elijah saying that, not Ahab. He just wanted to speak his own language.
Yes.
So make sure he could understand him.
Yeah.
Be like
right.
a Roman to the Romans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taking Paul's advice. Okay, 2 Kings 1, 10 through 12. Elijah answered the officer, if I'm a man... Oh, we read this one.
That one, yeah.
He burns them all.
Yeah.
Let's see. 1 Samuel 4.
It's almost like Elijah's just messing with them.
I know, right?
Like, he knows what's fixing to happen.
Yeah. He's so smug.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, 1 Samuel 4, 8. We're in trouble now. Who can save us from the power of these mighty gods? These are the gods who struck the Egyptians with every kind of plague in the desert. Jeremiah 5:14. This is what Yahweh Elohim Sebaoth says. Because you've talked like this, I'm going to put my words in your mouth like a fire. These people will be like wood. My words will burn them up. James 5:16 to 17. So admit your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you will be healed. Prayers offered by those who have Elohim's approval are effective. Elijah was human like us, yet when he prayed that it wouldn't rain, no rain fell on the ground for 3.5 years.
Yep. Doesn't that correlate with the 42 number we saw a while ago? We're pretty close.
The 42 number.
3.5.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
All right, and then Revelation 11:7. When the witnesses finish their testimony, the beast, which comes from the bottomless pit, will fight them, conquer them, and kill them. Daniel 7:21 says, I saw the horn making war against the holy people and defeating them. And then Revelation 13:11 through 15. I saw another beast come from the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb. It talked like a serpent. The second beast uses all the authority of the first beast in its presence. The second beast makes the earth and those living on it worship the first beast whose fatal wound was healed. The second beast performs spectacular signs. It even makes fire come down from heaven in front of people. It deceives those living on earth with signs that it is allowed to do in front of the first beast. It tells those living on earth to make a statue for the beast who was wounded by a sword and yet lived. The second beast was allowed to put breath into the statue of the first beast, and the statue of the first beast could talk and be put to death, and could put to death whoever would not worship it.
That sounds like every pagan idol movie you've ever seen.
That's right there.
But yeah, so who do you have a suspicion on the beast characters?
I mean, it's easy to attribute that to Hasatan or Satan, but I don't know. That's hard to,
Yeah, it kind of depends. I mean, so I think some people would think it's one of them is Satan. Someone might think one of them is Azazel, but I think you might also say Azazel and Satan are the same.
I think you
character.
make that argument, yeah.
And then the other one, I think people would say is Nimrod.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
So we're not sure how true that is, but those are what is out in the streets. So
feel free to put it in the comments if you have enlightenment on the subject.
Yes.
And then Revelation 11:8. Is it my turn or your turn?
My turn. Okay.
You got a lot.
I'll read smoothly. Revelation 11:8. Their dead bodies will lie on the street of the important city where their master was crucified. The spiritual names of that city are Sodom and Egypt. Okay, so that doesn't bode well. Ezekiel 16:46. Your older sister was Samaria. She and her daughters live north of you. Your younger sister is Sodom. She lives south of you with her daughters. So this is cities as people, basically. And
Yeah.
the people in the city are their daughters, I guess, is the way it's being leveled here.
Mm-hmm. That's I believe that's a passage where it's a holy Baba, and I forget what their names are, but it mentions
Oh
gives
yeah.
them two names
Oh, Holy
and
Bama.
personifies them.
Yeah. And I think this is where you get the city of Jerusalem that comes out of the sky being the bride, and the church,
Mm-hmm.
actually the assembly, as the children of the Messiah and the land
Yeah.
combination. So I think that's the picture you're getting here. So then Ezekiel 16:49. While you're looking that up, I'll move on to this one. This is what your sister Sodom has done wrong. She and her daughters were proud that they had plenty of food and had peace and security. They didn't help the poor and the needy. Doesn't say anything about homosexuality in there.
No. Uh-uh. Uh-uh.
But I think that it's because that devolution to what we find Lot running into in Sodom is a um, symptom of this disease. This is the actual disease, not the bring out your men and let us have relations with them. It's the you were had plenty of food and had peace and security and didn't help the poor and needy. That's your disease. And then the society collapsed because of that attitude.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually in Ezekiel 23 where it talks about the two wives by name, but it's
Oh,
kind
we'll
of
get there maybe.
it's all tied together because this is connected to the adulterous woman, and in Ezekiel 23 he gives them the name,
Okay.
but anyway,
Yeah, we might be on
it's
here.
kind of a progression through Ezekiel there that he's building that picture as he goes.
Okay. Ezekiel 23:3. They became prostitutes in Egypt when they were young.
Oh,
Their men fondled and caressed their breasts. This is
that's the
this is an
scripture.
R-rated
Yes, yes,
faith.
yes,
Just in case you weren't aware.
yeah,
If
yeah,
if the burning 50 men alive didn't
yeah.
tell you.
Well, and this is kind of marrying the Ezekiel 16 and the Ezekiel 23 together. So, but yes, it's something you should go read it for yourself. Hopefully, it'll spark you to go do that.
Yeah. Ezekiel 23:8. She continued the prostitution that she started in Egypt when she was young. Men went to bed with her, caressed her breasts, and treated her like a prostitute. Ezekiel 23:19. She remembered how she had been a prostitute in Egypt when she was young, so she took part in even more prostitution. You go with what you know, I guess. Ezekiel 23:27. I will put a stop to your sinning and to your prostitution, which you began in Egypt. You won't desire these things anymore or remember Egypt anymore. Such a beautiful passage there
Hmm.
of hope and redemption.
Mm-hmm.
Revelation 18:24. The blood of prophets, Elohim's people, and everyone who had been murdered on earth was found in it. So you'll have to stick around until we go through Revelation 18 to get the context, or you can go read it right now. Revelation 14:6. I saw another angel flying overhead with the everlasting good news to spread to those who lived on earth, to every nation, tribe, language, and people. Revelation 11:10. Those living on earth will gloat over the witness's death. They will celebrate and send gifts to each other because these two prophets had tormented those living on earth. Ezekiel 35:14. This is what Adonai Yahweh says. The whole earth will be glad when I turn you into a wasteland. Ezekiel 37:5. This is what Adonai Yahweh says to these bones. I will cause breath to enter you and you will live. Revelation 6:12. I watched as the Lamb opened the sixth seal. A powerful earthquake struck. The sun turned as black as sackcloth made of hair. The full moon turned as red as blood. Revelation 16:18. There was lightning, noise, thunder, and a powerful earthquake. There has never been such a powerful earthquake since humans have been on Earth. And this is where California falls into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Revelation 9:12, the first catastrophe is over. After those things, there are 2 more catastrophes yet to come.
Okay. And there is, like we said, some redundancy in here because some of the themes keep overlapping. Revelation 11:9 says, "For 3.5 days, some members of people, tribes, languages, and nations will look at the witnesses' dead bodies and will not allow anyone to bury them," which is kind of gross. 1 Kings 13:22, "You came back, ate and drank at this place, about which he told you, don't eat or drink here. That's why your dead body will not be allowed to be placed in the tomb of your ancestors." Psalm 39:2, "They have given their dead bodies of your servants to the birds as food. They have given the flesh of your godly ones to the animals."
So that's 79 too.
79:2, yes, Psalm
So does this
79:2.
this seems similar to whenever they would uh, like leave the dead bodies hanging to as a deterrent.
Yeah, it's to like a trophy.
Yeah.
Mm. In Texas, it would be hang your coyote on the fence post.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to teach all the other coyotes, look what could happen to you. And I don't think the coyote ever cared. So
They're like, what? We'll turn into a meal for the rest of the family?
yeah.
Yeah.
Revelation 14:6, "I saw another angel flying overhead with the everlasting good news to spread those who are alive on earth to every nation, tribe, language, and people." Revelation 11:10, which we're
going to read
I
next.
think we that's there. In Ezekiel 35:14, this is what Adonai Yahweh says: "The whole earth will be glad when I turn you into a wasteland."
You don't want to be that guy.
No, that's not good.
So Revelation 11:10, those living on earth will gloat over the witness's death. They will celebrate and send gifts to each other because these 2 prophets had tormented those living on earth. So then Nehemiah 8:10, then he told them, "Go, eat rich foods, drink sweet drinks, and send portions to those who cannot provide for themselves. Today is a holy day for Adonai. Don't be sad because the joy you have in Yahweh is your strength." That's kind of the other way.
Yeah, that's kind of an opposite passage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is, I believe this is Sukkot. They're refinding Sukkot, and they're excited about it.
But just like these people are excited.
That's right.
So, I mean, it's, yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of funny. It's almost potentially similar to like a celebration of their god, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, Esther 9:19. That is why the Jews who live in the villages and in the unwalled towns make the 14th day of the month of Adar a holiday for feasting and celebration. They also send gifts of food to one another. Okay, Esther 9:22. They were to observe them just like the days when the Jews freed themselves from their enemies. In that month, their grief turned to joy and their mourning into a holiday. That he declared that these days are to be days for feasting and celebrating and for sending gifts of food to one another, especially gifts to the poor.
Yeah, in Revelation 11:10, I don't think they're sending gifts to the poor.
Yeah, I think they're yeah, so this is I like the tie-ins here seem to be, hey, you celebrate when you win a battle.
Yeah. And you kind of have a good side celebrating and a bad side celebrating.
Yeah.
For different reasons. Revelation 11:11 says, "After 3.5 days, the breath of life from God entered the 2 witnesses, and they stood on their feet. Great fear fell on those who watched them." Ezekiel 37:5 says, "This is what Adonai Yahweh says to these bones: I will cause breath to enter you, and you will live." I think we read that one too, huh?
Yeah.
And then Ezekiel 37:9-10 is Valley of Dry Bones. And then Yahweh said to me, "Prophesy and the breath, prophesy, son of man. Tell the breath, this is what Adonai Yahweh says: Come from the 4 winds, breath, and breathe on these people who were killed so that they will live." So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath entered them. Then they came to life and stood on their feet. There was enough of them to form a very large army. Ezekiel 37:14, "I will put my ruach in you, and you will live. I will place you in your own land. Then you will know that I Yahweh have spoken, and I have done it, declares Yahweh.
Yeah, so go check out James Block has a song, Breath of Yah, all about Ezekiel 37. So check that out. We are not sponsored in any way. No. Okay, Revelation 11:12. The witnesses heard a loud voice from heaven calling to them, "Come up here." They went up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies watched them. 2 Kings 2:11. As they continued walking and talking, a fiery chariot with fiery horses separated the two of them, and Elijah went to heaven in a windstorm. Acts 1:9. After he had said this, he was taken to heaven. A cloud hid him so that they could no longer see him. So I think the 2 Kings thing is one of the reasons people give for Elijah being one of the witnesses. They'll say, well, he never died. But if you keep reading later, Elijah comes back and dies. So
yeah,
you gotta keep reading.
yeah.
And I think that's what people say about Enoch as well. They'll say, well, Enoch didn't die, so they'll say he's one of the witnesses too. But actually, if you read the book of Enoch, he dies. So it all depends.
Yeah.
I think most people it's appointed for men to die once, right?
Well, but it is taught. I remember being taught, like in a Bible class, that Elijah didn't die. He got caught up in a whirlwind. That was definitely
I think
taught.
later on. Though,
No,
I
I've
think
heard
it
that.
tells
Yeah.
you, yeah.
I was well into adulthood before I ever heard such a thing. I was like, what?
Yeah, they call him Pecos Bill here in Texas.
Pecos Bill, I'll tell you what. Yep, that's right.
Right? You guys tell your kids those stories growing
Yeah,
up?
the
like,
best. Seems like the best Pecos Bill was the Robin Williams version.
That had Patrick Swayze in it, too?
I don't know. It was like I think it was an animated cartoon thing.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking about the actual movie. There's a
I don't
movie. It
remember
has
the
Patrick
movie.
Swayze in it. I think he's Pecos Bill in the movie, actually.
Huh.
I think it has Babe and the
Yeah,
Blue
well, I was
Ox.
thinking there was some kind of little weird animation or something, and Robin Williams did the narration for it. It's real old. I don't know. Maybe somebody in there knows what
Put
we're
that
talking
in the
about.
comments.
Put it right up in there. Revelation 11:13. At that moment, a powerful earthquake struck. 1/10 of the city collapsed. 7,000 people were killed by that earthquake, and the rest were terrified. They gave glory to the Elohim of heaven. John 9:24 said, once again, the Jews called the man who had been blind. They told him, give glory to Yah. We know this man who gave you sight is a sinner. And then Revelation 16:12, I watched as the Lamb opened up the sixth seal. A powerful earthquake struck, and the sun turned as black as sackcloth made of hair, and the full moon turned red as blood. And then we did read that. Revelation 16:18, there was lightning, noise, thunder, and a powerful earthquake. There has never been such a powerful earthquake since humans have been on Earth. So that is definitely one of those signs. When that happens, you know where you are in the timeline.
Right.
I think it will be absolutely obvious. When you think about that, there's not been a powerful earthquake like that. So that's probably an earthquake the entire world feels, and they're like, "What was that?"
Yeah.
And then it makes sense in this modern age that word would kind of spread quickly, probably, if it didn't knock out every electronic thing. And that's another case of so much of the things you see in Revelation seems to be talking about a time, these wars, when it's kind of primitive, and a big earthquake would make us primitive pretty quick, probably.
It could, yeah.
Because you could see how a big earthquake would take out all communications, take bridges and roads and, electricity. I mean, it could stop all of that just, almost instantly and make it impossible to rebuild it.
Yeah.
Be a mess.
Alrighty. Revelation 11:14. The second catastrophe is over. The third catastrophe will soon be here. I saw an angel, and then we're tying that to Revelation 8:13, which is, I saw an eagle flying overhead, and I heard it say in a loud voice, catastrophe, catastrophe, catastrophe for those living on earth, because of the remaining trumpet blast which the three angels are about to blow. I mean, I think that's a sign too. You see an angel flying or an eagle flying around yelling at you.
Talking eagle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
a screaming eagle.
That's a sign. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then Revelation 9:12. His eyes are flames of fire. On his head are many crowns. He has a name written on him, but only he knows what it is. Is that game where you stick the name of something on
Yeah,
you?
heads
And
up,
then
I
you.
think. Yeah. Exactly. Revelation 11:15. When the seventh angel blew his trumpet, there were loud voices in heaven saying, "The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Elohim and his Messiah, and he will rule as king forever and ever." That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Exodus 15:18. Yahweh will rule as king forever and ever. Daniel 2:44. At the time of those kings, Alaha.
Good try.
Of heaven will establish a kingdom that will never be destroyed. No other people will be permitted to rule it. It will smash all the other kingdoms and put an end to them, but it will be established forever. Daniel 7:14, he was given power, honor, and kingdom. People from every province, nation, language were to serve him. His power is an eternal power that will not be taken away. His kingdom will never be destroyed. Daniel 7:27, the kingdom along with the power and the greatness of all the other kingdoms of heaven will be given to the holy people of the Elyon. The kingdom is eternal. All their powers will serve and obey them. Psalms 2:2, kings take their stands, rulers make plans together against Yahweh and against his Mashka. What does that mean?
Mashiach.
Mashiach. Okay, yeah, Mashiach. By saying, and then it stops.
Well,
So I guess you got to read
cliffhanger.
2:3. Matthew 3:2. Turn to Elohim and change the way you think and act, because the kingdom of heaven is near. And didn't we just read in Acts 19 or 20? It used the same verbiage. Change the way you think and act. I'm pretty sure that was in there. That was in our Torah group. We were reading through Acts. But
Yeah, I think so.
Mark 1:15, he said, "The time has come and the kingdom of Yah is near. Change the way you think and act and believe in the good news." Luke 1:33, your son will be the king of Jacob's people forever and his kingdom will never end. Acts 4:26, kings take their stand, rulers make plans together against the Lord and against his Messiah.
So this looks like he's quoting the Psalms 2.
Yeah, right there.
Yep.
And then Revelation 10:7, in the days when the seventh angel is ready to blow the trumpet, the mystery of Elohim will be completed as he made his good news known to his servants, the prophets.
All right, Revelation 11:16. Then the 24 leaders who were sitting on their thrones in Elohim's presence immediately bowed, worshipped Elohim. Let's see. So Matthew 19:28. Yeshua said to them, "I can guarantee this truth. When the Son of Man sits on his glorious throne in the world to come, you, my followers, will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel."
Making 24.
Yep. So there's that's
12.
12 of them,
Yeah,
and then the other 12 is the
tribal
heads of the tribes, right? Let's see. Oh, Judas is one of these 12, by the way. Revelation 4:4. At the time he's saying this, I'll say at the time he's saying this, Judas.
Yeah, he's in that circle.
Revelation 4:4. Around that throne were 24 other thrones, and on these thrones sat 24 leaders wearing white clothes. They had gold crowns on their heads.
Definitely connected there. Revelation 11:17, and said, "We give thanks to you, Elohim Almighty, who was and is to come, because you've taken your great power and have begun ruling as king." Revelation 16:5, then I heard an angel of the water say, "You're fair, you are the one who is and the one who was, the Holy One, because you have judged these things."
All right. Revelation 11:18. The nations were angry, but your anger has come. The time has come for the dead to be judged, to reward your servants, the prophets, your holy people, and those who fear your name, no matter if they are important or unimportant, and to destroy those who destroy the earth. Psalm 2, 1 through 5. Why do the nations gather together? Why do their people devise useless plots? Kings take their stands, rulers make plans together against Yahweh and against his Mashiach by saying, let's break apart their chains and shake off their ropes. The one enthroned in heaven laughs. Adonai makes fun of them. Then he speaks to them in his anger. In his burning anger, he terrifies them by saying, blah, blah,
Cliffhanger.
blah. If you want to catch the rest of that, there's a YouTube channel called Zion Christian Press, and they do a song version of this psalm that's very good. So go check that out. Psalm 46:6. Nations are in turmoil and kingdoms topple. The earth melts at the sound of Elohim's voice. Psalm 110, verse 5. Adonai is at your side, your right side. He will crush kings on the day of his anger. They also do Psalm 110. So Psalm 115:13. He will bless those who fear Yahweh, from the least important to the most important. Daniel 7:10. A river of fire flowed. It came from him. Thousands and thousands served him. 10,000 times 10,000 were stationed in front of him. The court convened and the books were opened. Daniel 7:22. It did this until the Ancient One, who has lived for endless years, came and judged in favor of the holy people of the Elyonin. The time came when the holy people took possession of the kingdom. Daniel 11:44. But news from the east and the north will frighten him. He will leave very angry to destroy and exterminate many. Revelation 14:7. The angel said in a loud voice, fear Elohim and give him glory, because the time has come for him to judge. Worship the one who made heaven and earth, the sea and springs. So I think interesting in that section, you have the nations are angry, and then Yah's like, I don't care if you're angry. I'm angry.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Get over it.
You're not going to intimidate Yah with your anger, nations.
Yeah. Yeah. I will show you anger. In Revelation 11:19, Yah's temple in heaven was opened. The ark of his promise was seen inside his temple. There was lightning, noise, thunder, an earthquake, and heavy hail. Exodus 9:18. So at this time tomorrow, I'll send the worst hailstorm that has ever happened in Egypt since the beginning of its history. Isaiah 30:30. Yahweh will make his majestic voice heard. He will come down with all his might in furious anger, with firestorms, windstorms, rainstorms, and hailstones. I'm definitely seeing a pattern. Jeremiah 3:16. In those days you'll be fertile, and your population will increase in the land, declares Yahweh. People will no longer talk about the ark of Yahweh's promise. It will no longer come to mind. They won't remember it, miss it, or make another one. Interesting. Hebrews 9:4, sorry. It contained the gold incense burner, the ark of Yah's promise. The ark was completely covered with gold. In the ark were the gold jar filled with manna, Aaron's staff that blossomed, the tablets on which the promise was written. Revelation 15:5. After these things I looked, and I saw in the temple, and the tent containing the words of Yah's promise was open in heaven.
Yeah, go up Jeremiah 3:16 there. People will no longer talk about. So this is, let's see. Yeah, it's that full of bread. You're full of bread, so you forget about Yahweh kind of thing. Same as when they came into the land, and we don't need that Yahweh. We have everything we need. Situation, which is bad news. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Like America. America is full of bread, and now we're like, we just went put it on coast for a while, and that's what happens.
Yeah, we as a whole, we don't have much need for him. We take care of ourselves pretty well. Yeah. And then in here, if you're still following this, there are some pictures that go with Revelation. This was from a site. I can't think of the name of this site now, but they have artists that make this, and they want it to be shared for public imagery, and it just kind of gives you, some visuals that kind of help you see the cubics and the pillars, and it's a good resource. to look at that.
Bam, there it is.
But yeah, I can't remember the name of it. And then also in Revelation, we have a backwards timeline that we see presented. And in Revelation, we find ourselves here. And so as we go through Revelation, we go all the way to where we end up back at the beginning in the Garden of Eden. So that's kind of where we're headed with it. You can go back and forth to the other pieces. Chapter 11 and chapter 12. Next time we'll do chapter 12, and you can you can toggle back. But we do ask that if this message was useful to you, that you'd share it.
Yeah, don't hide it under a bushel.
That's right. That's right. Jake, anything else you'd have to say here?
Just continue to read your Bible and check back for the rest of this series, and we'll put out the rest as Yah permits.
Yeah. And we do encourage you to check out, there's many things on Sabbath Lounge. One of them is I have published a book called Becoming Jacob, and we ask that you'd go check that out. And Deborah Publishing helped us. If you buy it from this particular site here, all the proceeds go mostly to Deborah and myself, and help support people who want to write these kinds of stories. So anyway, I appreciate all the people that have read it and left me kind reviews, but it's Becoming Jacob. So anyway, we appreciate you stopping by Sabbath Lounge, and we'll catch you on the next time. This is Matt
And Jake.
signing out.